All right. Good morning and good evening to everyone out there. How are you all doing today? Today was a bloodbath. All right, guys. But rest here, you weary, sick, and tired investor. All right. You guys can chill here because today, right now, at this moment, is the coffee hour. We're going to be going over a little bit of Bitcoin news. We're going to talk a little bit about the semis. We're going to watch a clip on CEO of CrowdStrike talking about the AI detection system and kind of, his forward thoughts on that. So I think that's going to be interesting. We also have some news that the government, Trump announced or is announcing a stake in Openai. All right. That is huge news. I did not have a chance to cover some of the articles that I really wanted to cover because I was wrapped up doing a lot of things. So just like yesterday, a lot of this is going to be off the cuff. I did not research into any of this. I didn't have a chance to because, the timing was just, I was getting rushed here and I was stuck looking at a couple other things. But, just like yesterday, we ran kind of a ad lib type of stream. This one will probably be no different. So I always appreciate you guys joining me on this Friday. All right. Today is a good Friday, thankfully. All right. We made it one more week. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope the portfolios are doing well. We're seeing huge drawdowns in the semi space and definitely across even the index is dropping quite a bit. All right. So let's see who we have here. Oh, hold on a second. I got a phone call. I got to take this. I apologize. This is not professional. One moment. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I had to take that call. I could not just let that call go. All right, let's see who we have here in the chat so far. We have Victor Sank. Nothing is more relaxing than a nice Friday bloodbath. Yeah, and I am super happy that I sold out some of my positions before this massive drop, especially on things like DRAM. Got out of DRAM, got stop lossed out of a couple other positions, is what it is, as they say. Let's see who else we have. We have Kevin Hawthorne. Good evening from Lakeland, Florida. Well, good evening to you, sir. All right, and thank you for joining on this stream. We also have the Sith of Mordor. What the bleep is going on with the market today? Haven't lost this much money since I got an ex-wife. Oh my God, no, you did not. No, you did not. That is terrible. Well, the market took half your money this time. No. In all seriousness, it does look like, again, we covered this yesterday. It looks like there's a lot of money being rotated out of some of the flyers, some of the high flyers that we've been seeing. I mean, we had like 9 straight days of green days. So we're giving back some of those gains, profit taking, but also people are getting ready for this SpaceX IPO. So that's where, a good portion of the money is most likely going to. But there is a clip we will watch, and it's out, honestly, it's coming from Michael Saylor. So I thought it was an interesting clip. So we will take a look at that a little later. We also have Scooter D saying hodl. And I got to say the same thing. We need to hodl, ladies and gentlemen. All right. PTLO Rails Food Company in the healthcare is the sectors to buy now. And I would have to agree, looking at the heat map earlier, that looks like where all the money is rotating. More defensive names, right? They're getting out of tech. They're getting out of the semis. They're getting out of the memory trade. It looks like some of that's unwinding. A lot of fear, doom, and gloom out there. All right. Maybe this is the start or the gradual decline of that 15-20% decline we've been waiting for. I don't think so. I really do believe, one, we have a rotation happening because we have fund managers that are rebalancing their portfolios. You have the SpaceX, IPO hitting soon. To a brokerage near you, right? So that is coming up. We also have just, the memory, the AI trade, the semi trade, profit taking. So I think that is kind of what is driving the sell-off. I mean, there's really no bad news. The jobs market, data came in today and it came in really, really well. Let's see what we have here. We have SOX S is 3 times on the semi or chip. That is up with Soxel is 3 times long down. Yes. So SOXS, if I'm not mistaken, is an inverse. So it's the inverse of Soxel. So if you're able to get in on that, that is a cool swing trade. Not something I truly want to be involved with because I cannot time things for the life of me. But, you know, in the Discord, I did mention when I sold my DRAM position that we were 70% above the simple, I think the 200 simple moving average or something like that for the semiconductor space. And I mean, that was kind of worrying for me. It's been that way for at least, you know, about a week-ish or so. And I was like, you know what? I see DRAM is starting to take a hit, you know, a little bit of a pullback. We had Broadcom miss earnings. Earnings is over, you know, so I was like thinking to myself, I think this is probably a good time to kind of, you know, take out some of the winners, at least take out some of the, you know, the long, or I should say short-term swing trades. Nothing wrong with the thesis, though. There's nothing wrong with the memory thesis or the semi thesis or you know, even the photonics thesis. I got stopped out of photo, is what it is. But anyways, moving on from that, the market sold off. That tech very overbought with a rate hike likely coming. And then Michael also says the job number was bad news that the Fed must raise rates now. That's also a good point. That is also a good point. The jobs came in really high, which again, I trust my government. They would never lie to me, right? Why would they publish fake numbers? I hope you guys can hear the sarcasm in my voice. But yes, that is also, you know, a thing. But I swear we kind of already figured out, you know, by now that we were not going to get rate cuts. So I think that in conjunction with everything else I just said about, you know, SpaceX and profit-taking, portfolio rotations, rebalancing, that is probably a part of that as well. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this show on the road. Again, to any of the new viewers that are just joining the show, just realize that I did not have time to prep. So this is going to be similar to yesterday where, you know, I'm kind of going to just wing it here because today was absolutely crazy. Just this morning was absolutely crazy. Okay, let's get into it. All right, so just a little bit of humor for everybody here. All right, again, today's Friday, so let's have a little bit of fun with it. And here we go.
Okay, let's run.
All right, Gone in 60 Seconds. Shout out to anyone that has watched that movie. That was one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite Nicolas Cage movies. But yes, we were all waiting, right? We're all doing good just about a week ago, and not so much anymore. So let's take a look at that heat map. All right, disgusting, absolutely disgusting. I mean, you guys look at that and tell me where the goodness is coming from. All of technology, software, semi, computer hardware, communication services, all sold off. All the Mag 7 completely sold off. Everything is just going into the deep, deep red. We had Micron with a 13% pullback. My God, did anyone buy the dip? Did anyone buy the dip on Nvidia, AVGO, Micron, AMD? Did anyone buy that dip? Or even SanDisk? Look at SanDisk, down almost 12%. We have Dell, which had a crazy run up, you know, after earnings, down 6%. Arista Networks also down 7%. Western Digital, SMCI, down 11%. Oh my goodness. Yeah, technology just got smoked. All right, let's see what we got. I see a bunch of comments coming. We'll come back to that in a moment. We don't have any futures, but I still want to see what oil's doing. Okay. I mean, oil's not too bad. It looks like it's down. It looks like it came down quite a bit. There was a little bit of news I saw. And again, I don't know what's true anymore when it comes to this U.S., Israel, Iran war. But I did see a thing coming, I think, out of First Squawk on X saying that Iran is working with Pakistani intermediaries to basically move some of the uranium dust that they do have to a third party, to a third country. So if that is true, that is a good signal. That is a good sign. At least negotiations are ongoing and, you know, still there. But, you know, you still have the IRGC, which is strong arming the Iranian government. Gold sold off. All right. Silver sold off 6.5%. Gold down 3%. Absolutely disgusting. Copper is down 3%. Platinum, palladium down another 5%. Absolutely disgusting. Metals did not do well at this time. Again, you would think gold of all metals would do really well during this time, but not so much. Let's see, for crypto, Bitcoin is hovering at 60,000. It's kind of scary, guys. Kind of scary. Not going to lie. Kind of scary. All right. So let's quickly go through some of the broader indexes. So we got the S&P 500 down 2.62% today, just today. Whenever an index drops at least a percentage point, you know we're in for a hell of a time. and it dropped 2.6%. So absolutely disgusting. Going back to the S&P 500, you guys could see that money was rotating into more defensive names like healthcare. Let's see what consumer defensive is doing. Yeah, so Walmart catching a little bit of a bid, beverages. You have utilities, energy. All right. So looks like it looks like gas is down, but utilities seem to have gotten some of that money. Medical devices here. We also have restaurants, McDonald's. Look at that, S-Bucks, some Starbucks. I got to buy coffee soon. So these stocks are doing okay. You have Home Depot and Lowe's. All right, in the green. So again, it looks like some of the money rotated into even financials, right? Even financials. Okay. So SMH, let's talk about it. Down almost 10%. That is disgusting just on the day. All right. Over the last 5 days, down 4.4%. Again, I got to believe this is just profit taking. We had a crazy run up. I mean, look at this, a crazy run up. I mean, if we look at the last 6 months, I mean, you guys tell me, when was it ever going to stop? Right. Eventually, things with hockey stick, types of graphs, you're usually going to have a correction or a pullback. And this is just on the heels of, SpaceX coming out. So again, I really do believe that it's just a rotation to cash or your money market accounts, or, it's portfolio managers probably rebalancing a little early. Usually they rebalance towards the end of the month, but I think because of the SpaceX IPO, they want to rebalance probably early. Again, these are just my thoughts. This is just what I'm thinking because, again, this is June. So this is close to the the end of the second quarter. So again, usually when these things happen, we see, rotations happening. Let me see if I can find that clip from, it was coming from Sailor, no less, which is actually interesting. But he was talking about kind of the rotation happening. But anyways, before we get to that, DRAM down, and oh my God, 15% DRAM is down. So if anyone's still in there, I held, I know this is kind of funny. When I sold my position, I held one share because I do want to hop back in the future. And I wanted to see what, how bad, how down this would be. So I was hovering at like 88%. I ended up selling for about 75% in the green. And now I think I'm down like 55, maybe 50, right? So, I mean, it was a really big pullback. As you guys can see here, over the last 5 days, down 15.68%. Over the last month, still up 20.2%, right? So you got to give up, again, some of those gains, down 20%. Year to date, still up 100. So anyone who got into this thing on inception, April 2nd, first week of April, I mean, you're still up quite a bit. And I'm sure you're very happy, which is a good thing, right? But the story is not dead with this pullback. The story for memory is not dead. We heard from several other, CEOs that memory is still a bottleneck. Okay. That memory, HBM, DRAM is still a bottleneck. So again, the thesis for DRAM is that this bottleneck will continue, that there will not be a flood in the market, right? We covered the Zero Hedge article, basically explaining that, the Chinese market is going to flood basically the world with cheap memory, right? Cheap memory. And that would bring memory prices down. But the only thing holding that back at this current time is that they don't produce good quality server memory, which Samsung, Micron, and SK Hynix do, right? So that's what's keeping, DRAM and the DRAM story going. But if that was to ever change, if the flip was to ever happen and China starts releasing global supplies of very souped up, server memory, then I could see DRAM starting to, that story being completely destroyed. And again, we're building out massive amounts of data centers, right? So you got to get the demand. Micron the CEO already said publicly that his, future production is already bought and paid for. So a lot of good tailwinds. Days like this suck. I get it. Days like this are absolutely brutal, but it's not over yet. Okay. Bitcoin dropping to the low 5,900. All right. We talked about this yesterday. Excuse me. I brought up the power law. All right. I was sharing with you guys just my research and kind of what I'm looking at and where I'm kind of betting my money, right? Is that we're not going to break below 58K. It's like 58.6K, right? That's what I'm betting on. So There's some other stuff we're going to take a look at, and it might scare you, right? It might invalidate that thesis, right? It might invalidate that or violate that power law, and we're definitely going to cover it, right? And these are from other people that I follow, and I'm again just sharing the research, sharing the posts that I am looking at, because I think it is valuable. You got to look at both sides of the story. You got to look at, one, the bullish case, or one, at least, the base case. And the other, you got to look at the bear case, right? You have to look at both cases and then come to your own conclusions on how you want to buy or invest. But anyways, we saw Bitcoin drop 4.4% to its low. It was actually about a 7% drop. MSTR did not fare any better. MSTR had a also equally dramatic drop, right? You guys can see here it dropped about 7.15% as well. So just as disgusting. Okay, so let's take a quick look at a clip from Saylor that's actually talking about this sector rotation. And it looks like, hold on. There we go. That's why. Boom, boom. There we go. Okay. So I'm not actually sure how old this clip is, but I still think it is a good thing to bring up. So let's talk about it.
Scalers, we can see it right. Let me just.
Oh man, I hope you guys can hear this. All right, I hope you guys can hear this. I know the volume might not be the best.
Just say a few words on the market right now. In the year 2026, there'll probably be $1 trillion of capital that's going to flow into AI and the hyperscalers. We can see it right now. In the last 3 months, in the next 3 months, $400 billion of capital is being raised by Openai, by Anthropic, by Google, by SpaceX. You're literally watching an $85 billion IPO in SpaceX, an $80 billion offering by Google. No one ever dreamed that the company generating infinite cash, Google, is going to go to the market and ask for 80 billion more. Anthropic's doing an $80 billion raise. So what you have right now is a massive capital rotation, $400 billion in just a matter of weeks rolling into AI. About 1% of that, $4 billion has rolled out of the Bitcoin ETFs over the past 14 days. You have a portion of capital. Clearly, people they're not financing the AI trade with all crypto assets, but 1 or 2% of the market is crypto. And there is a reallocation to get ready for these massive IPOs. That has created a downward pressure on the price of Bitcoin, which has fallen from 82,000 to 63,000 over those 15 days. I think everybody on X or on social media oftentimes loses their minds when the price falls, but it's not a complicated reason why this is happening. It's a massive vacuum. Every single investment bank on Wall Street is out there marketing the Anthropic deal, the Openai deal, the Google deal, the SpaceX deal. And everybody is got to come up with $400 billion of cash. And they're selling credit instruments, private credit, public credit. They're selling software as a service companies. Anything that looks stable, they're selling Bitcoin. They're rolling into the hot new issues. And that actually is the primary dynamic, I think, driving the market this week, this month. And it'll probably continue as long as these mega IPOs come. In the history of the world, there's never been $80 billion IPOs. And we're getting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be the biggest year of IPOs and equity issuance in our lifetime. How will the market react? You can see, I mean, there's just a massive amount of volatility. Sometimes things surging, sometimes they're crashing.
All right, so there's a couple things to unpack here. He brought up some good points. All right, so we just covered that too. Google is raising $84 billion, right, for AI capex. But then if you dig into the numbers, they're actually using a good portion of that money to pay taxes and pay off employees, which is insane, right? There was an article that came out about what that actual raise and what the 80 billion is going to actually be used for. But outside of that, we also have, of course, the hyperscalers, probably looking to spend even more money on data centers and capex, right? That money has to come from somewhere. They've been raising a lot of bonds, taking on a lot of debt. So, that's money's coming from retail. That's money coming from somewhere, from institutions, management firms, etc. But he also brought up a good point that this year is mega IPO year. We already have SpaceX right on the horizon. That's going to suck up a ton of money and a ton of capital. And then you have OpenAI and Anthropic coming later. Some are forecasting, or there was some jitters, or not jitters, but some whispers out there that it's probably around the September, October timeframe, which would be kind of funny because that is, October timeframe is when Bitcoin truly bottoms, according to the 4-year cycle, and then it spikes back up. So, that type of stuff is when you look at timelines and you look at how things are lining up, especially if you're like looking at Bitcoin carefully, I mean, you got to look at how things are just lining up. If those mega IPOs happen around that time frame, right? We're going to see the pump and dumps, right? For Anthropic, OpenAI, people are going to get in. You're going to see the stock shoot up like crazy. It's going to go to the moon, and then of course you're going to have people taking out their money, and then maybe at that point there's finally a rotation back into Bitcoin or back into crypto. All right, right now there are altcoins doing very well when compared to Bitcoin, Ethereum price action. So maybe right now is altcoin season, and it's leading up to eventually the Bitcoin run that we're all waiting on. Okay, but again, this clip was just kind of reinforcing the thought that AI is sucking out a lot of the liquidity. AI, we covered, like, it came in waves. You guys seen this come in waves, right? It was all software last year. Palantir was doing so well. You had Oracle. If you guys remember, Oracle had an amazing run last year. And then the hyperscalers, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all doing super well last year. And then they just blew up, right? They stopped going up and to the right. And then the software sector has been completely under pressure since around October, November, right? Then it rotated into metals and miners and gold and silver. We saw the amazing run up for silver, and then gold as well, and then the inevitable explosion, and then everything come crashing down, right? So we saw that. Then the next thing after that was semiconductors having an amazing run, right? And then we had that March, April kind of sell off. And then we had DRAM, right? We had DRAM come out 100% since April. So then it's the memory trade, and then now it's photonics. I mean, it's just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, right? But we're seeing those rotations happening. We're seeing those waves happening, right? AI is just sucking the money out of retail, sucking and institutional money, right? Just sucking the money out of the liquidity system. So at some point after these mega IPOs are finished, maybe that's when Bitcoin has its run back up. Okay, so I just wanted to share that point. Let's take a look at the chat because I see we have some chatter in here. And I just want to go back and cover some of the points. Yeah, those numbers aren't really great and honestly not believable, says Gmood, talking about the jobs numbers. Yeah, I believe my government. I believe everything they put out. Why would they lie to me, right? MJ Bowhunter, doubt they will raise rates, but who knows? They are trying to shake out retail really hard after changing PDT rules. Yeah, those pattern day trading rules, Robinhood lifted them. All the brokerages pretty much lifted them. And that's just going to encourage more degeneracy, right? That's just going to encourage a lot more degeneracy. You're going to have people yellowing their cash, and it is what it is, right? It's a capitalist market. It is what it is. We have Michael Anthony saying more selling coming Monday and Tuesday. That President Trump always lies, saying a deal is near, that Iran will never do a deal with Trump is wanting. Yep. We'll probably hear something over the weekend. Definitely hear something over the weekend. We also have from MJ Bowhunter, I picked up some today at a discount, talking about the dip. Who bought the dip? Again, asking the broader audience, who bought the dip? What did you buy? Because I mean, it looks like everything is on sale. MU, Oracle, Palantir was down. We also have let's see, is Qualcomm down too? Yeah, Qualcomm down 11%. Wow, incredible. On semiconductor down as well. Zero DTE was crazy today, says Padre. 1 hour still got $500 for a single contract on MU with a delta of 0.15. Excellent. Glad. I'm happy that people are at least winning in this market. Definitely good. Gmood says I bought the income versions of NVII, WMTI, which is for Walmart and Nvidia respectively, XLEI, which is a utilities income ETF from State Street, and a couple of GDXY. Wow, look at you, GDXY. GDXU. All right. I mean, that one is going to be spicy. Let's see. Oka on Athletic says, I missed a dip while at work all day today. And we have from Liberty is earned. I like that name. I had to set buy for Nvidia at a low price last week just in case a fall came. Today, my price hit and the buy went off. Excellent. You can never go wrong with Nvidia, right? Of course, not financial advice. I own Nvidia, right? I own NVDW, and I mean, I'm super bullish on Nvidia. I hope to buy some AVGO come Monday morning. And we have also MJ Bowhunter saying Bitcoin right on the lower power law line. Yep, we're going to cover that here in just a moment. Okan Athletic saying just by looking at the individual stocks inside SMH keeps me holding on. No problem buying more, baby. Let's go. All right. And we also have Padre saying, look at how much you saved by selling, referencing that I sold some of my winners, and absolutely I'm happy. But, you know, the black hole that is Bitcoin, just the apex asset, is eating up all of my freaking dry powder. We also have from Chihang, jolly good morning from Malaysia. Well, hello, Chihang, and welcome back. We have Jack. Is YouTube down for anyone else? I hope not, because that's what I'm streaming on. And it looks like I do have about 48 viewers on YouTube. So it does look like it's still going up. And Jack says, what's up, Eugen? Well, what's up, Jack? And thank you for joining this stream. All right, we're all caught up in the comments. Let's get into this Bitcoin section, ladies and gentlemen, because this is pretty much the biggest part of the news for today. Bitcoin, again, just down dramatically. And I'm going to share some posts, okay? Because, again, we want to look at both the bear case, the base case, and the bull case. And I went over the power law yesterday and kind of what my thoughts are. And I put my money where my mouth is, and I bought a bunch of Bitcoin yesterday, or IBIT, I should say. I bought a bunch of IBIT yesterday or today, whatever, time zone differences. So I did buy, thinking we're going to stay at, above the 58K band. So Monday, or this weekend into Monday, we will be finding out if the power law is going to hold or not. But we got to look at other things, right? This is the power law. All right. Just a real quick refresher for anyone who isn't familiar. This is the power law. You guys can go to Bitbo, and check it out and kind of research on your own what the power law is. But historically, this bottom red line, which is support, has seldomly been breached, right? So even during the most extreme sell-offs, you had the FTX Luna collapse back a couple of years, and even Bitcoin just barely kissed this line. Okay. So we were at 59 and change, and it did not break. All right. We were at 59 and change. Let's see if I can get this line this up correctly. So 6. Yeah. So we were at 59, I think 59, $125 or so. That's how, Bitcoin's low for the day. And we were $500 above 58, right? 58,622. So that's what the power law has it at the bottom. But what can invalidate this? What can violate that line? Are we going to go lower? You have all the Bitcoiners on X saying we're going lower. This is all we're all screwed, right? It's going to go lower. Bitcoin 4-year cycle. You don't have to look very far. Just look at the charts, look at the cycles, etc. Right? They might be right. There is a world where they might be right. They could absolutely be right. I mean, look at this trend. It is absolutely disgusting and scary. One person I follow, and I like his videos, even though he might, come off as, So here's the thing about Ben Cohen. I like the data he puts out and the logic behind it. A lot of Bitcoiners called him full of shit. And I hate to use that word, but, they were basically calling him out way back when he called the top for Bitcoin. And he said, hey, Bitcoin's going lower. And everyone's like, oh, 4-year cycle, we're going higher, bro. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. Right. And, he was right. He was absolutely right. We just started going down. So I wish I was following him at that time. I wish I knew about him at that time. Fortunately, I didn't. I didn't even know what the power law was at that time either. I just knew that I had to DCA Bitcoin or IBIT, right? But anyways, he put this chart out. Okay. So he put this chart out. He's saying that Bitcoin year-to-date ROI is literally right at the average of prior midterm years. This time is no different, right? This is the point he's saying. This has been his big point is that this time is no different. So this is a midterm year. We are in a midterm year, right? So he is saying based on this chart, we are going much, much, much lower. How much lower? No idea, no real answer, no number. He doesn't really do the price target thing, but he's saying that we are trending lower, and it is quite possible we can continue going lower, right? Because this is a midterm year, right? And this is all he's been looking at. He's looked at prior midterm years. Actually, if you look at the gray zones, these are all the ranges for the prior midterm years, right? So he is saying that we can absolutely go lower. Now something like this, could that invalidate the power law? Absolutely, 100%. It can, right? It just can. But again, just based on the historical data and the power law from previous years and previous cycles, it hasn't, right? It hasn't broken. You guys can check here. I believe this was FTX and Terra Luna collapse, and it just kissed it, right? It just literally kissed it right around here. I mean, again, that was about a $600 difference, right? So is this time different, or is, the pattern going to play out again? Or is this, like what's going to happen? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm looking at the same charts you guys are looking at. All right. So anyways, I wanted to share that in case people, think that the power law is the end all be all. It is a good forecast. It is a good back test, right? But it is not 100% guarantee, right? Again, it has 96% accuracy. So there is a 4% chance that, it's wrong. All right. So I just wanted to put that out there and clear anything up. So we also have from Bitcoin Archives. All right, Justin, Bitcoin falls below the 200-week moving average for the first time since June 2022, exactly 4 years later. So this is obviously kind of alarming, right? Because we saw here, this was the FTX collapse, Terra Luna collapse that I just showed you guys back in June of 2022, right? Bitcoin pierced that 200 WMA and it chopped, and then it finally dropped and the bottom came out, right? And it dropped below. But we saw from the power law, that even though that happened, it still did not violate the absolute bottom or the support line, right? It still did not. So I just want to put it out there. We're pretty much at that support line and we're just kissing the 200, or we actually just fell below the 200. So are we going to go much lower? Is this time different? Yes or no? I don't have a crystal ball for you guys. I'm looking at the same charts you guys are looking at. All right. So wanted to at least put that out there. And of course, we have the legendary Adam Livingston. This guy never misses when it comes to insulting people. I mean, I don't know if you guys check him out on X or check him out on YouTube, but absolutely great content that he puts out. Anyways, he's also referencing the power law in this thing that I just showed you guys. All right. So he says right now we are at 60K Bitcoin. We are at a negative 54% deviation from the power law trend, which is, I believe, the green line right there. That is a Z-score of negative 1.13 standard deviation. The worst day of the last bear market was November 21st, 2022, which is over here, FTX Terra Luna collapse. That was when a negative 56.6 deviation from the trend. All right. So we're at negative 54.1 at the current moment. All right. In the 60s range, whenever he checked it last. Right. So yes, at 60K Bitcoin, or at 60K Bitcoin is already in the same statistical neighborhood as the FTX capitulation low relative to the USD power law trend. And Bitcoin priced in gold is even worse. To merely be as oversold as the worst 2023 Bitcoin gold day today, Bitcoin would need to be around 130,000. All right, at 60K with gold still near 4.5K, the ratio is absolutely obliterated. The 2022-2023 bear market was Bitcoin cheap versus gold. Today is Bitcoin historically nuked versus gold. So Bitcoin is absolutely destroyed at this current moment. But is this the low? Right? That's the question we keep asking. Is this the low? You guys got to come to your own conclusions based on, just some of the things I'm sharing with you guys here. All right. You probably definitely want to do a lot more research aside from the surface level stuff I'm giving you. But outside of that, he says the 35K bros are pricing in the apocalypse. So he's basically saying that we are at the bottom. If it was to drop out to 35K, whatever this range, around this range or something like that, that is the apocalypse. That is the apocalypse for crypto. All right. So just thought I'd share that for any of our Bitcoin brethren out there, the people who are truly feeling this pain like myself, because I am absolutely feeling the pain. But I still bought more. I still bought more, whatever. MSTR obviously not doing as well. So let's check the chat. We got Darko Clockish. What's up, Eugen? Hey, welcome back. Haven't seen you in a minute. Hope all is well. All right. And we have G Nation saying almost missed the live. Well, I'm glad you're able to catch the live. We have Skeptic All right, good evening, and giving us a wave. And he says, in Chicago, what did I miss? We're talking about Bitcoin. We talked about the memory sell-off, and we talked about Saylor explaining, kind of this mass rotation to AI, right? Google raising 80 billion, the hyperscalers raising a bunch of debt, and you have the mega IPOs coming out, SpaceX, Anthropic, OpenAI. Over these next couple of months, I mean, that is where all the money is going to. So a lot of money has rotated away from Bitcoin, or at least, of that money, I think it was like 4 billion ish is the number he put out there. So that money is rotating into AI, which is about 1%. So still pretty crazy. Dude, that's what I'm saying, man. We need some red light therapy up in here, man. It's good for your skin. We need to rip the Band-Aid, just get over this freaking 15 to 20% correction, if that is truly on the table. Let's just rip it off, get through it, so we can continue this bull market. Okay, first thing we're gonna look at is a clip from CrowdStrike CEO on Jim Cramer's Mad Money show. Okay, so I've been talking up CrowdStrike, shared an article yesterday, but it's good to hear from the actual CEO on what this whole thing is with AI and how they're implementing it and how it's beneficial for the business, right? So again, more cybersecurity companies are going to start implementing this stuff. So let's listen in. We'll listen in for a couple minutes and then we'll get off it, right? Because this is like a very long interview. So let's listen in.
But somehow it was regarded as disappointing. So I have to believe that at some level, you might have been surprised that this quarter was disappointing.
Well, Jim, the way I look at it is we have the best products and we're taking care of our customers in an era where AI is obviously going to be pervasive and you're going to need security. So I thought we posted a fantastic quarter. Obviously, you went through some of the stats. The other stat that I'll point out to you is our rule of 40 was 59. So when you think about the growth and the cash flow generation, it's insane at our scale. So we're very proud of the quarter. And we're excited about the future and the tailwinds that we're seeing from AI.
Oh, well, let me posit something. We've had this terrible discovery, basically, this mythos, where it looks like that things are way out of control. And I figured that you would have a huge amount of business when this news broke. But it doesn't seem like maybe it turned into a lot of business. Was I wrong?
Well, Jim, you have to look at the calendar. You're talking about Mythos breaking in the middle of April. Our quarter ends at the end of April, right? So we're selling enterprise software, not necessarily shipping boxes. So these things take time to get into customers' hands. You got to go through a sales cycle. But what I want to point out is you have to look at the guidance of the next quarter. We raised the full year guidance across the entire year, our net new ARR guidance, by over 50 million, over 520 basis points, which is an incredible raise. So we have the confidence to do that because we see the opportunity that's in front of us and we see what customers are looking for, which is CrowdStrike, which is our AIDR technology, AI detection and response, to be able to identify rogue AI agents and be able to protect those and allow people to actually accelerate their AI adoption in an enterprise.
Well, I mean, is it possible that people are concerned that you did not raise your near-term ARR? You came in with 5.51 billion versus 5.503 billion, and people thought that maybe the spring rally wasn't justified.
Well, I would point you to the whole year, Jim. 520 basis points is a big move, and we see this taking place across the entirety of the year. So we feel really good about the raise. I think we feel fantastic about the pipeline. As an example, our AIDR technology, we're entering the pipeline with over 50 million in Q2 alone. We saw.
All right, so they're coming in with 50 million on this brand new service that they're offering and rolling out. It's an AI detection system that they're going to be putting in through their products and services. So they're rolling that out, and they already have customers lined up who want this type of security service. So that is what he's talking about when he's mentioning AIDR. So we talked about this, that a lot of these, when Anthropic Mythos came out, just software, cybersecurity companies all sold off, right? Everything was selling off. It's like the end of the world, end of software, the SaaS apocalypse, right? Unbeknownst to a lot of us, these cybersecurity companies were already working with Mythos, right? Already working with Anthropic, using it in test beds, practicing with it, or probably trying to find ways to implement it into their own tool sets. So I think that's extremely bullish for the next quarter for me. And again, we also had the Trump administration sign that executive order recently, talking about these frontier models are going to get released much sooner to these departments, these Department of War, all these other departments, right, for them to use and test with. And then they want the Trump administration, the government wants to focus on cybersecurity, shoring up the programs, making sure they're using the best tools and products and services in their respective departments. So, and this is going to be across all the major federal agencies. So again, I think this is really bullish, at least a bullish tailwind for cybersecurity companies. So me personally, I'm in the ETF from Amplify called HACK. HACK is the ticker. Not financial advice. Do your own research. All right. But that is kind of what I'm using for my own personal thesis of investing into cyber companies. So we'll finish off this clip another, I think, 20 or 30 seconds, and then we'll move on.
About 250% quarter over quarter growth just in that product alone. And what I know from talking to customers is they want to roll out more AI. And if you need more AI, you want to consume more AI, you're going to need security. So I thought it was a great Q1, and we're excited about the future and the guidance that we provide.
All right, well, I couldn't agree more. It's why I told Art.
All right, we'll end it right there. So, what are you guys' thoughts? Are you guys interested in the cyber story, in cybersecurity? Or are you guys going to sit this one out and just kind of leave it alone? Because again, software is still getting hit pretty hard, but we're seeing the ETF like IGV, which is the expanded tech sector software ETF. We're seeing that one catch an amazing bid. I'm pretty sure it's down today, but let's actually take a look at how it's doing. Okay, down 4%. I mean, it's not the worst, but it's still not good. Over the last 5 days, down 7.3 from its high. Let's see, down 11%, so 11.2%, close enough. All right, so again, the most unloved sector, right? Look at that. Oh, that's got to be crappy. All right, 44% gain, and then it's kind of sold off, so you're still up 28% if you bought the lows. All right, over the last year, again, if this is right around October when everything software was selling off, November timeframe, Palantir, all those software names, Oracle taking massive hits, kind of just sold off, and the SaaS apocalypse started. Right. And it's still down about 18% from its former highs. So I don't know, might be a decent trade or something to get back into. But yeah, software is it's going to be under a lot of pressure, especially with the LLMs coming out the way that they're coming out. Okay. So we listened to that. Let's listen to our boy, Tom Lee, talk about the market. All right. It's just a short 2-minute clip, and see what he has to say about all this.
Tom, what do you think of this news? Certainly in light of the Alphabet news earlier this week, is this a good sign or a worrisome one?
Scott, I think Meta's move isn't surprising because Google had a lot of success raising $45 billion in a very short underwriting period. And
that 45 billion is part of the 84 billion that Google is raising. So now you have Meta also trying to do a raise. So the hyperscalers are pushing for raises from the public markets, either through debt issuance or in Google's case, they're using the strategy, which is using an ATM, which is at the market. So they're going to issue more shares, dilute current shareholders in order to raise that money. So anyways, I just wanted to cover that point.
I think it's a reminder that these AI companies are building basically, huge real estate infrastructures that aren't fully funded today. And that's why not only will SpaceX need to raise more money beyond its IPO, and Openai and Anthropic, and of course, Meta and Google, but I do think they're showing a lot of promise in their investment today because there's been significant breakthroughs. So I think investors are going to give them grace, but you're right. I think Stephanie's right. This is not Meta's sort of financial profile is changing. It's changing from a free cash harvesting from their prior businesses to one where they're building land that could end up being beachfront property.
What's this sell-off about today, Tom? Did Broadcom spook the market? Did they start this? Is it positioning ahead of SpaceX and the biggest IPO we've ever seen. Is it something else? What do you think?
Scott, I think a lot of this, I mean, for instance, memory stocks are down, but they're back to where they were 8 days ago. I think the market did have a parabolic lift in the last month. And now I think there's some sobering taking place because expectations are higher. But I also think that SpaceX, $75 billion is a lot to ask the public to fund. So I think it is a big lift in terms of how you're going to fund that purchase. And so I think now when the stocks wobbled a little bit, I think people are raising cash. I don't think that this is the start of a broader correction yet, but as you know, we do think that later this year, there's going to be something that feels like a bear market. Today.
Yeah, and he's also said that that's something that will feel like a bear market is when people get in on these IPOs and they start selling out, because that's obviously going to impact some of the indexes. Like you have Nasdaq, the Nasdaq 100 or the triple Qs, they're going to add SpaceX like one day after it's launched, right? For the S&P 500, they're a little more conservative. They're going to wait a couple of months. Last I read, I think it's like 6 months is when they'll finally add that. But yeah, I mean, if you have these big sell-offs, these wild swings, I mean, it's going to feel like a bear market because you're going to have all of this money that's tied up in these current private names that are looking for the door and looking for retail to basically be their exit liquidity. And then, of course, what do they do with the money? Like I mentioned yesterday, they're going to go buy the Lambos, right? They're going to go buy their beach house mansions. And then they're going to probably reinvest a lot of that back into the stock market, back into public, or even some other private companies, right? So maybe we'll see more funds like RVI or VCX, start to catch different bids. So anyways, one thing he also mentioned is the data center stuff, right? And this is just some trivial information, but according to the U.S. data center map, let me pull that up. Hyperscalers raising a bunch of money, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, there's we currently have 275 data centers currently under construction, right? And this is according to the Data Center Map USA, right? So we have 275 under construction currently. We have 721 operationally across 51 states with 81 planned. All right, so how much does it cost to actually make a data center? Because I was curious myself. So it's actually about between 7 million and 12 million per megawatt for IT capacity. That's roughly $600 to $1,100 per gross square foot for a data center. So they're raising money to build these data centers, buy these chips, right, from the likes of Nvidia, AMD, all the equipment that goes into it. You're gonna have Cisco, you're gonna have SMCI, and then you got to think of the derivative plays under that. And you also have to think of the construction for these data centers, right? You're gonna have HVAC, you're gonna have power, all the copper that's needed for these things. And copper is going to be a very scarce asset here in the not too distant future. There's going to be that's copper super cycle or that commodity super cycle. And it's all driven on the backs of AI, right? All driven on the back of the AI CapEx spend. All right. So talked about that enough. Hope I'm drilling that into you guys, or at least, that is, again, just part of my own thesis for investing and how to look at the portfolio and where to kind of allocate money, because we're all capital allocators at the end of the day, right? If you're doing your own portfolio. Okay, cool. So this one was a big one. This is the US government looking to take a stake in AI companies. All right. So the likes of AI, like Openai or Anthropic, could potentially have a government stake, like we saw with Intel, like we saw with the mining companies, like we saw with quantum companies, and probably other companies in the future. So let's listen in.
Hi, Kelly. So we are hearing that the U.S. government is considering taking a stake in Openai, possibly other AI giants as well. A source tells me CEO Sam Altman and the Trump administration have been talking about this idea for more than a year now. Altman first floated this, from what I'm hearing, back in 2025 when Trump initially took office. A source says that Openai would actually donate a portion of its equity to a possible AI fund as part of this. Altman was on Capitol Hill just this week. He was meeting with lawmakers, from what we're hearing, including Senator Bernie Sanders, who has pitched a 50% government stake in some of these AI companies. He confirmed to CNBC that he and Altman talked about the concept of a sovereign wealth fund in terms of investing in AI. Much of this does mirror what OpenAI has said publicly already. Back in April, it did pitch a handful of solutions to try to spread the economic benefits of this technology and let Americans participate in AI's financial upside at a time when there is real anxiety around widespread job loss. The government, though, has a recent track record when you look at recent direct equity stakes in other tech companies. You have Intel, IBM, Global Foundries, other critical mineral companies, plus some quantum companies as well. Worth noting, though, a handful of other governments around the world are actually already invested in OpenAI and Anthropic through their own sovereign wealth funds. You have MGX out of Abu Dhabi and then the UAE fund. There are also some state funds that own blocks through venture capital firms. So there's sort of a precedent for this on a global scale.
Boom. So we have OpenAI eventually going to be, or eventually the government having a stake in OpenAI, right? So, funds like, I think we're going to probably see a little bit of a tick up once the deal or once it's actually announced, if there's any formalization to the announcement or the partnership or whatever. We'll probably see, kind of a boost in funds like RVI from Robinhood, which holds OpenAI exposure, and another fund like VCX from Fundrise, which also holds, some OpenAI exposure. Right. So this seems to be the thing, right? The thing that the U.S. government is doing, taking these stakes in these public companies or in these private companies. Right. I don't know. I've never, this is my first, I guess, I don't know, like my first couple of years investing and watching the news as religiously as I am. I can't remember another time when, the U.S. government has taken stakes in public companies. Because that is kind of seen as nationalization, but it seems the market has been pretty happy so far with these stakes. So more to come from that. It's just absolutely crazy. Here we go. Just a backdoor way to leave taxpayers holding the bag. Hey man, I didn't want to say that, but there are some names that they took stakes in that aren't doing so hot right now, but short term, right? It's all about short term stuff. We have Vladdy in the chat saying hello. Well, hello to you, Vladdy, and welcome both of you guys to the stream. We have from Wolf. Hey, Wolf, welcome. If we are going to give them money, why not get a stake? That's a good point. All right, that is a good point, because the CHIPS Act from a couple of years ago, we were giving a lot of semiconductors companies money. For basically essentially nothing. So did away with that, forced them to move back into the United States from the tariffs, threats and all that stuff. So now they're building a bunch of freaking new fab plants and moving over here. So moving production over here. We're seeing like the likes of, TSM, Taiwan Semi, moving here. We have also Micron building a new plant. And, I swear I saw Samsung was also building here. And you have automakers, of course, building in the United States as well. So just a lot of craziness going on. Okay. So there was a accompanying thing here, and I just want to go over it. So again, I did not have a chance to read through the article, so we're going to look through it together. Trump administration, OpenAI discussing possible government stake in the AI startup. OpenAI, Sam Altman, and White House are in ongoing talks about a possible government stake in the company. The AI startup could donate equity to the U.S. government to seed something like the Public Wealth Fund. That company outlined in April its policy proposal, according to the source familiar. The talks have been in progress for more than a year, as Altman's first shared the idea with Trump administration in 2025. So that's interesting. Let's see if there's anything in here that we don't already know. So as part of the potential agreement, OpenAI could donate equity to the Public Wealth Fund. OpenAI said the fund could invest in diversified long-term assets and would enable citizens to participate in the upside of AI growth, possibly by receiving the fund's returns directly. No, no, they're not going to give us the funds directly. It's not going to bank accounts. They're going to use it to do other. They're going to use it to, build road, very low quality roads and highways. No, I'm just kidding, but we'll see. I don't know. There are concepts where the pieces could be given to the American public, where the American public essentially becomes a partner, he said. Let's see. Let's see, nothing else. The US should lead on AI by continuing to develop the very best models, making sure they're safe, and getting cyber tools into the hands of trusted defenders. Altman wrote in a post on X, the new executive order gets the balance right. So interesting take. I don't know how this is going to work. That'd be kind of wild. But, we did see also, at least the administration, the government was, at least aware that, and I could see why, because OpenAI and these hyperscalers, OpenAI, Anthropic, these names are obviously, they need compute, right? They need data centers. And right now, what's the most negative thing about this is the data centers being built in people's backyards and driving up electricity prices and basically sucking the water out of their reserves, right? And people won't have water to shower with or water to do anything with, right? And driving up water costs, of course, right? So I could see this as, I don't know, I don't want to call it a PR stunt, but I'm very skeptical of something like this. Me personally. All right. Don't take my opinion as fact, or as something to sway you. Please don't. I'm just kind of sharing my thoughts here. I really shouldn't, because it's such a political thing. I just don't know how this is going to work. I don't, but I think, if more, if you have Anthropic, OpenAI come out and start doing this, we start seeing announcements from the hyperscalers, also doing this. I really think this is a political PR stunt, right? Marketing. It's just marketing, right? Like, oh, don't worry about them building the data center in your backyard, right? Don't worry about that, because you're going to be part owner in this huge AI rollout. So we'll see how this rolls out. What does the chat think? Let me know, and we'll go from there. All right, Wolf says, hello, everyone. MJ Bowhunter says, I wonder if they are actively managing the accounts that they use to invest in companies, selling cover calls. I highly doubt it. I think when they take an equity stake, it's just there, right? It's just an equity stake. Instead of giving cash discounted shares, all kinds of wild ideas. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Instead of giving cash, give discounted shares. Yeah, then maybe put them in the Trump accounts, right? Maybe put them in the Trump accounts for kids. Maybe that's one way to do it. I think that would be a good, an actual good idea, right? Because then you're pretty much securing all the children who are being born. They're going to have a piece of this AI build out in their portfolio before they're even able to talk. I think that'd be a good idea. Okay, let's move on from this. All right, Marvell Technology and Flex to join the S&P 500, replacing Pool and Campbell's Soup. Imagine that. So Marvell is joining this. I think this is the bigger part of the news. They're joining the S&P 500, which is obviously very bullish for Marvell, especially since now they will have to be added to multiple indexes. The S&P 500 is a big one. Getting added to that one is a huge deal. So now that Marvell's in there, they're going to get a bunch of passive flows from all the indexes that need to include Marvell in their index. So this is very bullish for Marvell. So shout out to anyone that has Marvell in their portfolios. I'm sure you guys will be extremely happy in the coming months. We have Google. All right, we saw a second one. This is the second thing we've seen regarding SpaceX and using their data center or leasing out their data center space to hyperscalers. All right, Google to pay SpaceX $920 million a month for compute capacity at XAI data centers. Anthropic is already paying about $1 billion to SpaceX. So look at that. SpaceX is already making a ton of money, from just leasing out their data centers, because we already knew, right, that Grok was not going to be a major LLM, right? We all knew that. They built out this massive data center, all this massive compute space, and it's empty. So it makes sense that they're just going to lease it out to other people that need it and then make some type of revenue on it. Actually, I do want to give a shout out here, because I watched his video and I thought it was well done. And he does cover a lot of the finer details regarding SpaceX and it being added to people's portfolios. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, here we are. Okay, so I do want to give him a shout out, because I watched a video on SpaceX and I thought it was really well done, and talking about kind of the risks. I I mean, you're not going to feel the risk, but indexes will. But he put out a video, The Hidden Dangers of the SpaceX IPO. Shout out to Citizen of the Year. Definitely check him out. Subscribe. Again, he puts out some really good content around responsible investing. But anyways, he does have a lot of humor in his videos, as you guys can plainly see by the Wojak astronaut. Anyways, yes, going back to SpaceX. In this video, he talks about how SpaceX is actually a conglomerate of several different companies, right? One is Twitter, which we know was a failing business, and then Elon overpaid for it and then bought it and turned it into X, right? And then he took XAI, which, wasn't really, well, it was actually a moneymaker. He merged that into SpaceX, right? And then you also had Twitter, now X, also merged into under SpaceX, right? But take that a step further, you have Starlink, right? Starlink is a moneymaker for SpaceX. SpaceX doesn't just do reusable rockets anymore or manufacturing or any of that stuff. Now they're kind of all over the place. They also do Starlink, right? Starlink is rolled up in that umbrella of SpaceX, and now you also have SpaceX, shooting for literally Mars, right? In order for Elon Musk to unlock these specialty shares, they need to, Elon Musk needs to put 1 million people on Mars, and also build out an orbital data center, whatever that looks like, right? So absolutely fantastic stuff that's coming out, but high risk, right? Obviously very risky. But anyways, recommend people check out that video to get a good idea about SpaceX. So Google to pay SpaceX, this is just adding to the SpaceX hype, adding to the SpaceX narrative that now, they are actually making some type of money. They are profitable, but when you're buying SpaceX, you're really buying the bet on the future. That is what you're paying for. It is going to get an insane premium. Days before the planned IPO is expected to raise record sums of cash, upwards of $80 billion. SpaceX has inked a deal with Google that will bring in $920 million a month by providing AI compute capacity to the search giant. According to a regulatory filing on Friday, Google will use about 110,000 NVIDIA graphic processing units, as well as central processing, memory, and other components housed in SpaceX data centers. The agreement spans from October of this year through June 2029. All right, SpaceX said in the filing that if it fails to discover or deliver access to the committed amount of GPUs by September 30th, 2026, Google can immediately end the agreement. All right, so that is interesting right there. But they're not going to miss. They're not going to miss. They're definitely going to get that done, or accept the number of GPUs provided at a reduced fee after a 1-month grace period. What else we have in here? Yeah, and this is the second massive infrastructure deal announced by SpaceX. The first one being with Anthropic, which is going to be using their Colossus 1 data center in Memphis, Tennessee. So. And then we have, of course, SpaceX coming to a brokerage near you very soon. I mean, their IPO shares are already available, at least on Robinhood they are. And I'm sure they're available on the other brokerages, Fidelity, probably Schwab, etc. So interesting stuff. MJ Bowhunter says, how about taking part of the $920 million and distributing some of that into the communities that are affected by the data centers? Don't expect it to happen, but that would be a big help. Yeah. I don't even know how that would even look or how that would even work. I'm curious, at least, I don't know if we have anyone from Tennessee, if they saw their electricity, bills go up in price because of the data centers. Because you have two market forces right now that are kind of playing on that. You have obviously the stuff in Hormuz, the Middle East, that's also impacting energy costs and data centers being built out. So what do we have here? We have from G Nation, Marvell was up 10% post-market after the S&P 500 news, and then dipped to 3.4%. Don't know what Monday has got. I think Monday we're gonna see a reversal. I know that's really hard to believe, but I really do think on Monday we're gonna see a reversal for a lot of the names. Again, for me, for Bitcoin. Speaking of Bitcoin, let's check and see how Bitcoin is doing right now. If it's fallen below, still hovering at the 60,000 range. So far so good. We'll see. We'll see if the floor falls off or falls out and Bitcoin just drops lower. That's pretty much the end of this stream, ladies and gentlemen. We've been streaming for about an hour. The only other thing I got is there's a lot of people willing to short MSTR at these levels because they believe Bitcoin is going to go lower. So Bitcoin's going to go lower. Strategy is going to crash into the floor. So the shorts are loading up at these levels. Again, for me, I ended up adding to my MSTR position. I am betting big on that the power law holds up, and that we have probably at least a choppy, sideways kind of flat, chop for Bitcoin, and then eventually up, or maybe we push up higher, we grind higher like we did, this current year after February, we just grind higher, and then have one final shakeout sometime in October, plus or minus a few weeks. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to do it for me on this Friday. I hope you guys were entertained. Hope you guys got a little bit of value from this. Hope you at least are feeling better about your portfolios. All right. I think I'm down 11, 12% or something on the day. Absolutely bloody red. But, red light therapy is good for your skin. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoy your weekend. I should be able to do an invest and chill session on Sunday. So if you want to join for that, those are pretty much, free ad lib. If we have any guests that want to come on, we will bring them on. But outside of that, hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Go touch some grass, have a barbecue outside. Go enjoy your weekend. All right. Don't be stuck in the finance land, the finance tubes. And I will see you guys in the next episode. You guys take care. Let's see. We got one last comment. I want to cover it. Michael Anthony says, I don't think so that Bitcoin will be touching the 50,000, that the semi will follow, is still very overbought, that most to all tech still overbought, that's still going to be in a correction. Yes, I also am in agreement with you. I think semis are definitely in trouble right now, but not trouble because the story or the thesis is bad for them. Like I said, they were 70% overbought, from their regular moving average or whatever, the simple moving average. So there's got to be a correction or a pullback at some point, right? And this is definitely part of that. And this is on the heels of SpaceX's IPO. So you're going to have fund managers start to, rebalance their ports, take the winners off and get ready for the SpaceX. So at least that's my thoughts. All right, guys, you guys have a great weekend. I will see you all in the next episode. Take care.